Administration is going heavy now. That's what happens after the State of the Union. You do the road show. The president will be in 5 swing states over the next week. We've been hearing from Donald Trump about the basement campaign and all this kind of stuff. Is Donald Trump going to be able to keep a clip like that of travel here? Is this going to start looking more like a traditional general election campaign?
I think it will ratchet up, but, Donald Trump doesn't have any problems of getting attention, right? I mean, he finds every and any excuse to make an event or anything that's happening in his life a campaign moment. We've seen that in the courtroom and outside the courthouses. So that's not a concern. It's not going to really change much there, but he does have to start fundraising, and that's something that he hasn't had to do before. So he needs to start ramping that part up of his operation, because the RNC, yes, now the money and the focus will go to him, and he is putting people in place there to make sure he gets that money. But their fundraising numbers have been pretty abysmal compared to what the Democrats are doing. So he's going to have to take more of an effort, put more of an effort into fundraising, something that he's not had to do before.
Yeah, Michael Whatley is now chair of the RNC. Lara Trump, his daughter-in-law, is now co-chair. That effective as of today. As we talk about the former president, Jeannie, and you talking about the need to be for these two to contrast themselves with each other, should they do that on the debate stage? President Biden was actually asked today if he would commit to debating the former president, and he said it depends on his behavior. And we've had a lot of questions about whether or not Biden would want to debate Trump, have to speak off the cuff because of the concerns about his age. Did last night prove that maybe he would be up to that, or would that worry you?
I think we saw last time around 4 years ago that Joe Biden is very much up to the task of debating Donald Trump. And, I think it is not lost on all of us that Donald Trump, who ducked the debates throughout the primary, all of a sudden on Joe Biden's night last night calls for these debates. So I'm not quite convinced that Donald Trump will do them, because, of course, when you read the fine print, he had all sorts of rules attached to that. But I do think Joe Biden should debate. I do think Donald Trump should debate, because I think a lot is lost on the American public if we don't have debates. Now, given what happened last night, I am not convinced that I'm going to find them particularly compelling and serious. I mean, last night we had Donald Trump basically playing with his Snapchat, putting heads of lizards on top of the president. The room was like a cabaret. So, I don't know we'll get the serious debate I would like, but the American public should have the opportunity to see whoever is at the top of both of these tickets going at each other in a serious way on the debate stage, because it's one of the last times we get to see them do that before we go to the polling booth. So I hope it happens.
Maura, he said the state of our union is strong and getting stronger. I know you're supposed to say something like that when you're the president doing this speech, but is that true in a country as divided as this one?
It doesn't feel like it. I mean, America is the greatest country in the world, right? We still are in that position to either side that's saying that it's devolving, or that, we're not, or saying that we need to take America back. That's not language that I want to hear a former president say, or any candidate who's running for office, because we're all Americans. And so coming at this from not outside the political landscape, right? We need to look at this as when you're putting the country first, you want to see that the economy is doing well. You want to hear plans to improve the economy. I don't think that Joe Biden yelling at us about the economy is a way to get us to agree that it's getting better, because you can't yell at someone to agree with you. You have to explain to them, here's what's coming down the pipeline. Here are things that I'm working on, and you'll soon feel it in your pockets. If you aren't now, here's what I'm working on. Here's what I plan to do. Start relating to us like we're human beings and who have, real feelings, as opposed to bashing us in with hypocrisy, contradictions, and, for the Trump campaign, just blatant lies.
Well, of course, as we talk about the fact that the president said the State of the Union is strong and getting stronger, we have to note that Katie Britt, to end her response speech, which got a lot of reaction, to say the least, on social media, basically said that the current State of the Union is not strong, but America is still a land of opportunity, or something. I almost forget the actual substance of her words, because everybody was caught up with the fact that it was in the kitchen, et cetera.
Well, it was hard not to get caught up in the performance, right? I mean, it's become a meme.
Yeah.
There's a reason why she's posting apparently still images from the address. This is the cold open on Saturday Night Live?
We'll see.
Oh, I believe it is. You know, it was made for SNL. And, you know, I think it was, you know, if you had turned on that TV not knowing who was speaking, I think you would have been hard-pressed to imagine that was a U.S. senator. She literally said zero about governing. Yeah. So the setting was off. The affect was off. It is an SNL cold open. And she has a really amazing story to tell. And I'm sorry for her and her constituents that she didn't get a chance to tell it.
I'm breaking the rules because we're out of time here, but I just feel like Maura should be able to weigh in on that. Maura, did Katie Britt fall off the short list for vice president last night?
Absolutely. Trump doesn't like having negative attention anywhere. And it's so unfortunate because she is a rising star in the GOP. But you put a woman in the kitchen the night before International Women's Day, and I mean, it fell so flat, and you had her on an emotional roller coaster within one sentence. Again, these are just terrible optics, and it's terribly frustrating as a woman in the GOP to see that be how she was set up.
Side Maura Gillespie, founder and principal at Blue Stack Strategies, our panel today. Maura, we're talking no labels. They had a secret vote. They say they're going to run a candidate. There are reports that they may have found one. Is it too late?
I worry about where they're going to get their candidate, though we don't know who it is yet, where they're going to get them on the ballots, come election day. You know, the window is getting smaller. We've got less than 8 months now and until election day. So I do worry about it. I think that the reasoning behind it is based on the fact that over 70% of the American people don't want this rematch that we are now faced with a Biden versus Trump. So I understand their reasoning, but I worry about them getting on the ballots and also where that pulls from, where that candidate support pulls from, either Biden or Trump.
Well, Jeannie, what is your take on that? Because we've often talked about that being the big concern of Democrats, that these votes just pull from Biden and guarantee Trump a victory come November. Does it depend, though, on who the candidates are? Could that outcome be different depending who this ticket actually is, since we don't know?
Yeah, it absolutely could be different. But I think one thing we do know is they do not have a chance of winning. So at best, they're either going to draw, I think, likely from the Democrats, but potentially, to your point, depending on the ticket, from the Republicans. And if they keep both Trump and Biden below 270, this race will be decided by Mike Johnson and the House of Representatives. I mean, can you imagine, given the fact as to where we are with Congress today, that the folks there will be charged with picking the president, and how that would go over if that was to happen? Mm-hmm. So it is, to me, a maddening decision. And I call to know who's funding them. I call to know what this process is.
Well, they'll have to disclose that, right? If they finally go through with this, we'll find out where the money is coming from.
And are they not a political party? They keep saying, we're not a party. They're certainly acting
a unity organization.
It's an organization.
They're stepping closer to being one. One of the big moments from last evening at the State of the Union is when we couldn't have imagined, as George Santos walked onto the floor, privileges of membership. Maura, not just that, he kicks out a tweet saying he's running for Congress again in New York's first. This is not something I'm guessing Republicans want.
Absolutely not. I mean, Republicans or Democrats, they don't really want in-house fighting when it comes to congressional seats, although I don't think this is really much of a fight. I think that George Santos is doing this simply for attention. Maybe he needs some money. I'm not sure how the cameos are working out for him, but it does sound like this is just an attention-seeking effort for him and not a serious run for public office. Again, it makes me so sad as somebody who worked on the House. I worked on the House floor for a little bit. I worked in Congress for over 10 years. I have deep admiration and respect for the institution. And to watch some of these members of Congress come in there and treat it, like a playground and just embarrass themselves, it's really frustrating to see the decorum devolve the way that it has.
Because this campaign needed to get more interesting. Maura Gillespie, thanks for being with us. Of course, Jeannie Sheehan Zaino, Bloomberg Politics contributor, with us here at the table. Happy International Women's Day. And